All right. Welcome to Bark Banter. I am Skyler Gingrich and I own Redemption Dog Training in Denver, Colorado.
And I'm Macey Frisier, and I own BossDog Canine Dog Training in Louisiana.
And we are here to be dog trainers and not experts in the field and just talk about things. And we're going to talk about what everybody else has already talked about, which is the fact that Adam Spivey of Southend Dog Training caused quite a stir by going to Crufts.
Mhm.
So have you looked into this at all, Macy?
I've watched the videos, but I haven't seen anybody talking about it.
Okay.
I read the comments, I've watched the videos. I've watched some other videos off of it, but that was about it. And it was kind of all the same general topic.
Yeah. So I guess there was a whole thing and he's actually been like disinvited like from Crufts like completely, but they wouldn't really state why because even in their statement they were like there were no prong collars or e-collars on the booth at all. He was literally just doing
Mhm.
a book signing. But he has been disinvited from going to Crufts because he uses tools. So we can't go to Crufts. It's sad for us.
That is sad. That is sad. And because I would love to get into agility and other things with my border collie. And I watch the Crufts all the time. So to
Uh-huh.
know that if I was to go there, they'd be like, "Nah, get the fuck out." That it's not exactly, inviting. And I think there's going to be a lot of backlash to Crufts coming up to them from other trainers. Cause no, you don't think
I
so?
it seems like everybody's behind it. All of the force-free positive reinforcement
Mm,
crowd seem to be they seem to be about it. They also have told everybody to stop using licky mats because he was at the
mm,
licky mat booth. Um so yeah.
yeah, yep. My thing is, there's a lot of sport people that compete that also use tools though and or not force free. There's a lot there are, but it's just very hush hush. And that's something that whenever I was getting into AKC and trying to learn a bit more about rally and stuff, that's what I found. And I
Yeah.
was like, ah, okay. So I really think honestly it might have some backlash on that end of the field. I mean it might not. It's already a hush hush thing with these people, but if they're real supporters of having the freedom to train their dogs how they see fit. I mean, if they really do care about the freedom of being able to use tools as they see fit their own personal dogs, then they may rally together and be like, "This is unfair." Um, but I mean, also they may not because they're worried about being looked down upon. But I mean, in a perfect world, I would hope that they would rally together and that it would help push this movement, a little bit, in the right direction that it should be going.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could all hope.
Well, so and I felt so I obviously I wasn't there. I live in the United States.
Hmm.
Um but I've heard different accounts. I've heard that, like, people were actually, like, verbally abusing the people at the Licky Mat, like, station because he was there.
That's so not cool.
We know that people were sending angry emails to Licky Mat
Mhm.
because he was
Yeah.
there, and it's really interesting to see all of this, like, they're coming out with, like, "Ah, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is," and that's fine. Like, I believe that people should be allowed to do that. If you choose to not work with a brand because of a thing that they do, that's fine. The sad part about it was that Licky Matt, it seemed like, felt so, pressured by this whole thing
Mhm.
that they put out a statement basically saying, like, "Hey, we didn't do our research. We're sorry. Of course, we back science-based dog training," and it's sad to see this, like, random company get dragged into what
Mhm.
is, like, proverbially a fucking dumb, dumb fight.
Yeah, well, even then, like, licking that by itself, like, it shouldn't I mean, they do so good, like, so much good in the dog world.
Yeah,
Like, why does it matter? You know? Like, they put out, like, extremely good products
yep.
that help keep your dog safe from, like, certain types of materials that's not gonna poison your dog if they accidentally, chew off a little bit here and there.
Licky Mat is a good company.
Yeah, Licking Mat is it's they do so much good in the dog world, like, they give products that are helpful and they educate about how to mentally stimulate your dog properly that a lot of
Mhm.
people 5 years ago before Licking Mat didn't fucking know.
Licky
Like
Mat and Kong, I think, did
yeah,
the most. And for the
yeah,
record, just in case, any force-free people part of this, craziness are a part of, our podcast, I wanna put out there, just to stir some discontent. Kong comes to, the IACP conference
absolutely, and they're fucking
every year,
wonderful there. Every year.
and they're wonderful, and we love them, and we spend lots of money when they let us.
Oh, absolutely, and last year, they even had their own educational,
Yeah, they did a seminar
workshop.
last year, it was
Yeah,
great.
it was wonderful. Guess what? I got to be a part of it. I got to demo.
Yeah, yep. But, yeah, in case anybody, wants to get mad about another company, Kong Kong is at
Mhm.
literally all the different conventions, it doesn't matter, because they don't take
Yeah.
sides,
The thing is
because every
no,
dog should be
exactly.
allowed to be enriched.
Mhm. Yeah, it shouldn't be that you have to choose one company over the other because of their views like that. Especially when that company doesn't force their views and they're like they don't again, like you said, they don't take sides. Like they're there just to help enrich dogs. That is their
Yes.
goal. Why are we or why are they like, you know, bashing them because they made a mistake and invited somebody that they didn't that people at that event didn't get along with their views. Like
Yep.
that's ridiculous. Like Licky Matt quite literally just does so much good in the world and puts out all these amazing products and all this education and y'all are over here bashing them and messing up a really good company.
Yep.
Like it's
Also, Licky Mat
ridiculous.
is an Australian company, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, like they travel all the way over here and they ship all the way over here. Like I love their products.
Yeah, me
Absolutely.
too.
And all these people at Crufts love their products too. They're just mad.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, put your money where your mouth is if you don't feel like supporting Licky Mat because they invited a balance trainer to their thing. Give your money to Kong instead, who also goes to our conferences. Um, so maybe make your own. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's hard. I've looked into it. Hmm.
I'm just kidding. I'm feeling a little bit spicy today, apparently.
Mm,
So
I see that.
yeah.
But, okay, so what was the conclusion of that entire event, though? Like,
So
what unfolded?
I don't actually know. From what I have seen on the internet from hearsay, I literally haven't seen anybody actually post who was there.
Mhm.
But from what I have seen from everybody on the internet from hearsay is I've heard that people were mean to the Licky Mat people. I've heard that he was only there for 2 hours as the book signing. He posted a kind of passive aggressive, like, thing. I don't actually know where he posted it because I think he took it down. But it basically said he had a conversation with them and somebody said, put the dog down if it was like super reactive. And he said, that's the difference between you and me, which honestly just kind of sounds like he was a little bit butthurt because people were upset.
Mhm.
And
I
yeah,
mean, he's not wrong, though.
uh, I don't want to put all of them into I don't want to put all of them into a category and be like they're all going to
Mhm.
say, "Hey, put the dog down." There are some dogs I think probably should also be put down. So,
Same.
you know,
I think it's situational based, like, if the person and we can get into we're not talking about that today. We'll get into that
no, we
another
are
day.
not. This
So,
is a completely off subject thing.
for
Yeah, so he was disinvited from Crufts forever, which I took as a I can never go to Crufts because what if somebody sees my Instagram page and sees that, some dogs have prong collars or
yeah.
e-collars or something on? Apparently you just can't be
Mhm.
there. So yes. That was actually one of my dreams. It looks like one of the coolest dog shows in the world, like legit.
Yeah. Like, when I was younger, I was like, "Wow, I wanna" go to that one day. I wanna go be in
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
nope, they just ruined that for me.
Yeah.
Mm,
Okay. So our topic for today is, should you get a service dog? Why or why not? Because Macy has been chomping at the bit to do service dogs.
we can do a
She
whole thing on service dogs.
loves her service dogs. She does some really good stuff with service dogs. So
Mm,
why should you or should you not choose a service dog? We're gonna start with the why you should not
mhm,
first, because I want to dissuade people who think that they want a service dog and they don't understand things.
yeah. I am a big believer that you should not get a service dog if the training behind it and the science behind it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Like, I have so many people who ask for service dogs, and I'm like, that's not possible to help
Okay.
you. A lot of them or with medical alerts, that people want for like crazy things. Um,
You got to give
and
me an example here.
so some people are gonna hate me on this. I don't really believe in a medical alert dog for headaches and migraines. Um,
Okay.
I think maybe you could train it for behaviors, kind of
Okay.
how we do dogs with um seizures,
Mhm.
but I don't think you can train the dog to smell a headache because what is causing the headache? What's the chemical compound that is causing the headache? Where's the headache coming from? What can the dog smell? The science behind it just doesn't add up yet. I'm not saying 10 years from now it can,
Okay.
you know? But as a trainer who sells fully trained service dogs,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I can't put that out there, you know? And I can't back that because the science behind that, I can't back that science. And guess what? Medical officials are also going to back that science because they can't even understand that
Okay.
yet. So
I
I
was
mean,
gonna
that's
say, like,
why.
that sounds like something I would try to do, but I don't sell fully trained service dogs,
Mhm.
so it would be something that somebody would hire me to help them do the scent detection with, and with that, I give no guarantees. So,
Yes. I would believe it if the science was better and somebody could explain the science to me.
okay.
Because there are people out there who have headache, migraine alert dogs, whatever they want to call them, as medical alert dogs.
Yep.
But the science of how they train the dog for that just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
And so, I mean, is the dog actually or is it just a happens to happen thing and you just
Okay.
happen to reward it at the same time, you know?
Okay.
Like what's getting that dog to be able to alert to that? What are they alerting to? Nobody can actually tell me that. So
Okay.
that's why I'm like, if your disability does not have legit science behind it that dogs can figure out, does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like something that like I can take tangibly and know what I can pinpoint and train that dog for. I do not think you need a service dog.
So, like, diabetic alert, you would be
I'm on
you
the
say
fence with that one.
really?
Mm. Just because I find that uh, that there's enough dogs out there right now, um, that prove that that can be done, although I would like to see better science on it.
So, I think that one, it's definitely scent-based and,
Mhm.
like, with that one, you just make sure you take samples at the right times, yeah.
Yes, see, that's why. But the thing is also you have to stress your body so much to get to that point. Now, what I don't like about that one is that you can't generalize it very well, like, because everybody smells different.
Mhm.
So you almost always have to have the exact scent from the person that you're training for,
Mhm.
not that you can take a general compound odor and
Right.
train to that. So I
Yeah,
mean
no, that's real.
that
It
makes it
it
really hard.
almost seems like it would have to be an owner-trained service dog to be diabetic
Yeah,
alert, actually.
almost, yeah. Unless like you're just getting samples every week, fresh samples. Because I mean,
Yeah.
yes, you can take it, you can freeze it, but then once you use it that one time, you can't use that sample anymore.
Right,
But
right.
also, how many are you getting in a week, every week? How many times are you stressing that person's body because you have to get it to a certain level high up
Yeah.
and a certain level low down to
Right.
be able to have the dog be able to range between those
No,
levels for the
that's a
diabetic.
great point. That's a great point. I never thought of that.
Like I said, I
I'm
would
trying to teach Lucifer something similar-ish right
okay.
now. It's more I have, like, nauseous spells, and so I just take a sample when I'm nauseous, and then we use it for our next training session,
See, that makes sense to me because when you get
but it's
nauseous, there's
me.
like an extra saliva in your mouth though.
Yeah.
And exactly, it's you. So
It's
there's
me,
something in
so
your
yeah,
chemical compound.
exactly. I don't have to worry about, like, trying to do it with somebody else's dog on me. That seems a lot harder.
Yeah, so all these people that are like training my brain alert dogs for other people,
That doesn't
I it doesn't make sense.
yeah.
What's the science that you're following behind that?
Yeah, no, I get that. That actually that makes a lot of sense. I never thought about that.
And then POTS is a hard one because people are like, "Oh yeah, POTS with a spinning ability." Like I trained my dog to tell me beforehand.
Mhm,
I can see how that can work. How we train seizure alert dogs where
mhm,
we teach them the tasking for the behavior, and then over time of them being paired with that person, they start to anticipate.
mhm,
So I can see that working if you're teaching the dog how to task during your spell, that the
mhm.
dog will start to task earlier and earlier because they want that reward earlier.
Okay.
So I can see that working. But I cannot train a dog to do that. I can teach a dog the tasking to help mitigate that disability, but I cannot get a dog to alert beforehand for somebody. So
Yeah, I
again, all these other people, all these other dog trainers that are putting out, I think it's fake service dogs. I think it's they're just teaching the dog to be really well behaved and how to maybe brace whenever somebody's fallen,
which
and
makes
maybe just a
sense.
random task.
Yeah, well, and, like, that's I kinda think, like, heart rate alert, which is kind of what POTS
Mhm,
would be yeah, you would have to do it with the person. Like,
mhm,
it would have to be something that you did with the person because, yeah, it wouldn't generalize well because
mhm,
people smell very different.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
then even then, like I think heart rate, like the training behind teaching a dog how to do heart rate alerts
Mhm.
is weird.
I think that's still a scent thing. Like,
Yeah, yeah, but
that's
what are
how
they
I've always
scenting?
approached it. Huh?
It's definitely a scent thing, but what are they scenting?
Well, see, and that's the thing is you'd have to teach them to alert over a certain heart
Mhm.
rate and then below a certain heart rate and get those samples and
But
then
where are you
get
getting those
those
samples?
I'm a big mouth
The mouth?
person.
The mouth? Okay.
I'm a
Because
big,
like
like, take a sample from your I've seen people do it with, like, sweat or just,
mhm.
like, clothing,
But people don't always sweat when their heart rate rises like that.
and that's kinda where I'm at with that is, like, for me, it's most of all of that I would do in the mouth. I think I would
Mhm,
just take mouth swabs and then, like, kind
mhm.
of start with the mouth and then go from there.
Yeah, so things like that I won't touch just
That
because
makes
I
sense.
can't I now, don't get me wrong, I can train a dog for all the other stuff that could help with those situations,
Mhm.
but I'm not teaching the dog to alert to when before you're having it because
Right, right.
I don't there's no science that I can actually back that and know that I can guarantee that. So all these people that like they see these people that are self-training these dogs and these dogs are doing amazing things, but you also got to think like, or are they actually doing that or are they actually reading your body language?
Well, and that's part of the, like, question that everyone especially with self-trained service dogs, it
Mhm.
really can be that the dog learns to pick up on those super tiny things, and you never know.
Yeah, and
So, yeah.
these people that aren't dog trainers, like I'm kind of weird about self-trained dog trainer. I'm sorry, self-trained service dogs because like I see so many out there that aren't exactly what a service dog should be doing, and they aren't
Well,
actually helping in some ways. It's more of just like a dog that is just catching on to like, oh, I do this and I get rewards.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
which, I mean, I'm not gonna, like, shit on self-trained service dogs. I help people train their service dogs themselves.
So even
I
then,
do
like a
not
little bit of guidance and a little bit of education on how like dog training works
yeah.
scientifically, I think that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and, like, I think for some of these people, like, it really does become, like even if it is the dog picking up on these super tiny signals, that could help.
Mhm.
Like, even just having the dog there,
Depends on
like
what the disability is though. Like I said, there's some disabilities that like what you're teaching the dog isn't actually going to help.
okay.
Like I don't think a dog really needs to learn how to orbit or crowd control like that. I don't think it actually teaches the crowd to leave you alone. I think
Well,
it's just fancy.
that's something we were actually gonna get into, right? So,
Mhm.
anxiety, because
Mhm,
a lot of people, like PTSD, different things that have anxiety attached to them,
mhm,
really want service dogs. This is what I
yeah,
get called the most for. I don't know if you do.
mhm,
It's a lot of,
typically,
like, things that have to do with anxiety, and you and I, we talked about this before, like, we both have some pretty severe anxiety and some other
yeah,
things, and neither one of us has a service dog for the simple reason that it actually stresses us out more.
yeah. So, with that, I do train a lot of anxiety, assistant service dogs, um, but the thing is, I vet them, like, vet the person
Yep,
really well beforehand, and I make sure they understand what they're about to get into,
yep,
because it you gotta understand, like, what is the anxiety about? What are the triggers? How can we help with that? But if your triggers are, like, confrontation and people coming up to you, and talking to you, and you're not prepared for it, don't get a service dog.
yep,
Because that is the one thing that having a service dog causes. It causes people to immediately be like, "Ma'am, you can't come in here." Somebody with confrontational anxiety, me, that
right, right,
makes my heart rate go up so high, and then, like, if it gets really bad, then, yeah, I will have a panic attack, but it has to get, like,
yep,
really, really severely bad for that to happen.
yep.
Me training everybody else's service dogs, I do deal with that, but I have been able to fake it, I guess,
Well, and you like, you don't have to deal with it
there's no
every
script in my
single
head.
time.
It's not every single time. It will catch you completely off guard when it happens.
Yeah,
So people who have trouble with, um, handling things that are not in their regular everyday life and, like, changes, like, that's such a big change that that will just cause your anxiety to go way up.
yeah,
And
that's me.
the
With
peop
some big social anxiety when it comes to, like, things that I wasn't anticipating,
mhm,
and, like, I feel like having somebody just, like, and I've done it, I train dogs for a living, like, people do this to me, but I expect it because I'm training somebody else's dog. If
mhm,
I were trying to just, like, go about my life and go to the grocery store or something like that, and somebody, like, was in my face, in my space, like, being either confrontational or not confrontational, like, trying to be friendly, I would not do well with it.
no. And that's what like, the big thing with, like, people who think that they need service dogs for anxiety. What type of anxiety do you have? What are your triggers? If your
Yeah,
triggers are people and people talking to you, don't get a service dog because guess what?
really not a good
Every
idea.
single time I am out training a dog, whether it's a pet or a service dog or any other type of working dog out in public, doesn't matter if I'm at the park, if I'm at the grocery store, if I am at Tractor Supply, Home Depot, Lowe's, all of these dog friendly places,
Mhm.
somebody sees a dog and they're beelining to me. They pass by, they'll talk to the dog, they're gonna talk to you, they're gonna ask you questions, especially if you have a really cool breed, you know? Like, people see dogs and they find every reason why to talk to you.
Absolutely.
And it's fine if you have a script in your head and you have answers to just pop off. That way it's almost like creating a barrier between your anxiety and upfront. That's it.
Yep.
But then it's like those moments where you don't have a script for it in your head that just make it your like if somebody just asks you the wrong question or ask why you need them or people are rude, bro.
Well, and
People are just
that's
rude.
like, legitimately, if you have some sort of social anxiety kind of issue and you feel like you need a service dog, look up the service dog TikTok videos,
Mm-mm. Those
um,
are they make my
and pretend
anxiety
you are in that
so hard.
person's shoes.
They make my anxiety
Pretend
so bad.
and that's the thing, like, pretend you're in that person's shoes where you've got some random dude being like, "Well, you don't look like you have a disability," or
Mhm,
some manager being like, "You have to leave right now because I said so," and you're trying to tell them, like, what the actual law is, and they don't wanna hear it, and they're being
mhm.
confrontational. Like, I want 0 part of that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, when I had my own service dog, Brit, which is a logo, um, we dealt with that a lot, actually. I think the worst one was Taco Bell.
Mhm.
Like, a simple quick in, quick out trip turned into a whole hour, and them threatening to call the police on me
Yep.
with my service dog. Like, it was really hard, and that's something that, like, it's not the only time that that's happened, you
Yep.
know? But that was probably the worst one, and Brit wasn't doing anything wrong. Brit was laying at my feet. I teach my dogs that when I'm up at a counter, they come in front and they lay down, or they
Mhm.
come in front and they stand. Literally what she was doing as I was ordering. And I was not popping off as much as I want to. That's kind of my anxiety tip is I like to somebody's confrontational, I immediately want to get like build a barrier and get confrontational back. My second anxiety tick is that I will break down.
Yep.
So like that's like kind of the like it's either I'm confrontational back or I have a panic attack. So I mean those are my two like panic moments. Um but yes, so I mean that's like she was doing fine. And then whenever we went and sat down and eat, she was under the table, went to sleep, was late, putting pressure on my legs and giving me little nose touches, letting me know that I was okay, giving me something to focus on while I was trying to ignore the person screaming at me to get out.
Mhm.
Like it was a whole thing, threatening to call the police on me, and I was like, call them. I will gladly talk with them about why this is wrong.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and the
You
thing
will
is,
have to
it's
know the law in and
mhm,
out. Like, there's no, like, having a question about it kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
You
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 got to
have
know
to know
the
the law.
service dog laws
Yep.
because that feeling is going to help you.
Yep.
If you can give them something physical that says the laws on there, if you can bring them to a certain website, so you gotta memorize that website. If you can
Yep.
every single law that talks about service dogs, you have to know it. So that way, as soon as they ask the question, you got it. That's the only way to make it look like you know what you're talking about and that you were superior than them. Because if not, somebody else is gonna if you back down, if you start crying, if you start breaking down and like can't answer questions because you're so overthrown, like they're gonna be like, haha, you're wrong. Get
It's
out.
yeah, and they're gonna use that against you.
Absolutely.
Another thing is, like, some people, like, legitimately don't like dogs. Uh, and you if you are sensitive to the way other people feel or the kind of looks and things that they're giving to you. I was at the gym with one of my clients, and we were just trying to get her dog used to just being in there, hearing the sounds, smelling the smells, doing the
Mhm.
things that we do as, like, people who train service dogs. And I could see this guy out of my peripherals that just kept looking at us and glaring
Mhm.
and just, like,
Absolutely.
glaring and glaring and glaring. And she went to, like, take her dog to some other equipment or something, and I said, "Don't walk past that guy. Like, don't do it, because you never
Yeah.
know."
Those are gonna be the
Like
people to either kick your dog. There's gonna be
yeah,
the people to either, yell at you. Those are gonna be the people to scream and run and make a scene. Like you might not make a
uh-huh.
scene, but they will. Um,
They might claim
down
to be deathly allergic to dogs.
yeah, yeah. Like it's there's a lot of danger in that. You
Yep.
know, down here we get a lot of the older crowd. The older generation does not get it.
Yeah. This
I don't know
this
about you
guy
up
was
there. Yeah,
older. That was he was
yeah.
he was giving us death looks, and I literally told her, I said, "Don't go over there, like, just avoid
Yeah.
that."
Restaurants, people in restaurants. Is that dog
Yep.
supposed to be in here? Like all the way across from away from we were
Yeah.
sitting. Like we get that. Like, oh my God, you brought a dog in here? Are they clean?
Yeah.
Like, it's because food in here.
Yep.
Like, I get their concern, but also, would you say that about somebody with a wheelchair that has to oil their wheelchair? And they're like, oh my God, don't get that oil over here. I don't want to slip.
Uh, well, and so much more than that, like, dogs in general, like, don't shed that much
Mm,
like that. So, like, in a restaurant, if they're there for the amount of time it takes to have dinner, I probably have that amount of hair on my shirt right at
for
this
sure.
very moment, and
Yeah.
it's actually more likely to get in your food.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I mean, if you can't handle things like that, then don't get a service dog, you know?
Yep. If
Or
any of this is making you anxious right now, do not get a service dog.
um the other one that gets me is if you or a confrontational person and you have an issue with other people bringing in fake service dogs. Like that like I get the reason why of being like, "Oh no, that's a fake service dog. You need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave." But also, are you really gonna put yourself through that much stress over
And your
somebody
dog.
shouting and your dog, yeah, because 'cause
If
they're
you
like, "Oh
have
my
a dog
God."
with you, like, why would you why? I
Mm,
understand that fake service dogs are a problem, and I am not
yes.
diminishing that at all. But,
No.
yeah, the amount of people who are going after other people for having fake
Mhm.
service dogs and
Yeah.
just causing confrontation are not making it better.
No.
Now, if the dog tries to go after your dog, you have every right to go to a manager and
Absolutely.
tell them to kick that dog out. I'm not saying that.
Absolutely. I would fight for my any of the dogs that are with me. But the thing is, like, don't go looking for a fight, you
Yes.
know? Like, there's, you know, I mean, it's just one of those things of, like, where the world is going nowadays, dogs are the new kids.
Yep.
People are pushing to be able to bring their dogs to them anywheres. And I'm actually kind of pro that, like, just because it's where the movement's going, so why push against it, you know? Um,
Yep.
as long as that dog is they're keeping that dog contained, it's not rushing me, it's not bothering my dog. I'm fine with it,
Yep.
you know? But I'm not gonna go up to be like, "Ma'am, you obviously have a fake service dog, you need to leave. Your service dogs don't act like that.
Yep.
That's wrong." Like, I'm not doing that, because there's no point in that,
Well,
you know?
and more than that, like, whatever you determine a service dog should act like isn't
Mhm.
necessarily correct.
Yeah.
So, like,
I mean, there's a standard, but also, I mean, the laws are kind of wonky on that one.
and that's the thing is
Yeah.
like, it's like if you decide that a service dog should never ever smell a person ever, and you see somebody's dog smell a person and you go, that's a fake service dog. Well, it doesn't actually technically say that like
Mhm.
service dogs can't ever smell people. What if that person smells
Or
really fucking weird? It's a dog.
the one that I used to believe was that all 4 paws on the ground, and that's why we
Mhm.
always went with bigger dogs, not little dogs.
Right.
Um, but it doesn't say in the laws that you can't have a little dog
In a purse.
carry in a purse. Doesn't say that.
Yep.
What matters is the dog is not being disruptive, and what matters is that the dog is,
Housebroken.
um, yeah, pretty much, and well behaved.
Housebroken, under control, technically task trained for the
Mhm.
disability, well behaved in
Yep.
general.
Yep.
And if the dog misbehaves, the handler has an opportunity to
Get the
fix
dog under
that.
control.
Yep, because these are dogs, people.
Yes, they're not
They're
robots.
dogs.
So the reason why I said that's because somebody's mentioned somewhere that they did a medical alert with a dog that was
Mhm.
small, and she could just smell the mouth, so they put her in a sling, like a baby sling, up on her chest,
That's
and
so cool.
that was it. That was but like I growing up teaching service dogs, that was the first thing I ever learned how to train, and I was always told all four paws on the ground. They're not allowed to be up. Where does it
That's
say
what I
that?
thought too. Yeah, that's what I thought when
Yeah,
I first did stuff. Yeah, I it's not a thing. We're always learning. So let's
absolutely.
go into the good stuff about having a
Mhm.
service dog. The good part.
Yes. So service dogs can help in so many ways. Like I know I talked about like don't get a service dog if you don't know the science behind how it can help you, but also there's so many random things that service dogs can't help with. You know, like I trained a dog for the first time ever last year for trichophilia. Never
Mhm.
thought it was a thing. Never even had a client who had that before. Ended up with one client who had it and would they did it out of anxiety.
Yep.
So it was an anxiety induce. So we trained the dog to come like literally stand up and put her head and knock away the hand from her face,
Mhm.
his face. Um, and that was their task, you know? So I mean, like, there's so many things that service dogs can help with. You just gotta know the science behind it and you gotta know how it helps you. Okay. Uh that's what I think, that's the good part behind it. They can help with so many different things that are not physically able to see.
Yep. They can help with a lot of things. And it really, I feel like for a lot of people, it actually gives them something to do a lot of times, like keep up with the dog's
Mhm,
training and do
mhm.
that kind of thing. It
Yeah.
kind of helps everybody in this because you do have to keep up with the dog's training. The dog is not going to just be perfectly trained like forever if you don't continue its
Mhm.
training. And I think that helps people a lot, especially like mental health wise and just
It helps me.
giving everybody something to do.
So whenever I had Brit, I was in a very dark place of my life in high school, and
Mhm.
getting up and training with her every day and going do things that were fun for both of us honestly helped me through all of that time frame.
Yep.
Um, that was probably the reason why I think I don't need to continue having a service dog is because I it helped me be more confident. It
Mhm.
helped me learn how to handle situations. Just having her with me, and helped me regulate my body to where whenever she passed away and I didn't have her anymore, I learned how to continue doing that. It was really weird. Like, the things that she helped me with when she was with me, even though she was gone, I was able to regulate a lot more than I used to. Like, it
Right.
was it was really weird. So, I mean, like, yeah, absolutely. Like, they can help you so much outside of just doing their task. Um, so I mean, that's a good thing. So I mean, the community is like super big and super strong, and literally, you any question you can ask. You know, people have their own experience. They have professional experience. They have, um, additional experience that can help you and answer your questions. Um, any issues you have, you can rally up service dog people, bro. Like, people will literally travel to go and help you if it's like a major issue with public access. So I mean, that's a really, good point to make. Um, and as far as like talking about like tasking, there are people and organizations out there that can help you get the education that you need to train your own dog if you really wanted to.
Yep.
Um, there's also the one bad thing I have to say about that is I don't think there's a lot of really good service dog trainers. That's
I
not
would agree with that.
like there's service dog trainers. You can find them in almost every state. There's not a lot of really good ones. And there's not a lot of people that can actually provide what they promise to you or
Yep.
help you find something that's, like, oh, maybe that's not possible, but let's talk about this instead.
Right.
That this might help you with your disability instead. And problem solve with you. Oh, there's a
Yep.
lot of people that will take advantage of this of somebody who's in need of a service dog. So that's one bad thing to point out. Um, but
There's a
if
lot
you
of people who
really do
actually
need a
don't know what they're
service,
doing.
yes, absolutely. There's
I
people who
get I
think
get
they
a
know what it
lot
takes
of
to train a
people
service
who
dog,
come.
and they just
Yeah,
yeah.
I get a lot of people who come over here and come to me and ask me about certain things, and
Well, I think there's a reason why you're getting service dog people now.
I and that's I'm not known as a service dog trainer by any means. I have, like, a couple of clients that I have helped them do their training, but their dogs are solid, solid, and, like, they've gone to people before me and, like, people never mind.
That's what I'm saying, though. I think there's a reason why you keep getting service dog people, even though you're not advertised as a service dog trainer. You've never put that out there. People came to you and looked for you. There's
It's
a
not
reason why
even
that
on my
happened.
website.
Mm, no. Um, but on top of that, though, if you were to put out there that, hey, I want to learn how to train this task, or I want to learn this information about service dogs, the community will come together and provide all of that for you.
Okay.
Um, they'll all give different ideas that could possibly confuse you. You're gonna get a lot of feedback, but it's just about finding what works for you. So I think that's a good point.
So, as far as, like, the good things about having a service dog, I think that despite the fact that Macey does not agree with the crowd control techniques and things like that, depending on your dog, it can keep people away. I've seen some people with, like, Malinois and German Shepherds and stuff be able to teach their dog, like, a decent amount of techniques to keep people at a distance. Now, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that people don't talk to them, but it does mean that the people stay more than 3 feet away,
That's right.
generally.
See, my experience with teaching crowd control, watching your six, blocking, people just walk up to them and pet them anyways.
I've
My
seen
dog
that too,
me
for
down here.
sure. Yeah, I've seen that for sure, and I think more of that is
I
just, like, the dog still provides a buffer.
well, I mean, I've seen it scare people.
I can see that.
Like, the people that are actually needing to use it all, like, they needed, like, I've had a lot of veterans ask me before, it scares them when people walk up behind them, and so they want the
Yeah.
dog behind them to block that, but the thing is, and that's something that I really think, like, the general public needs to be more educated about anyways, is if you see a dog doing crowd control and, like, pushing, or blocking,
Mhm.
don't walk up to it. Like, If it's in a vest, it
Yep.
says service dog, and it is, like, blocking behind somebody, don't touch it. There's a reason why it's there. But that's why I don't
Yep.
train it really anymore unless, like, upon request and they really adamantly want it, is because it
Right.
doesn't actually help anybody
Yep.
anymore nowadays. People see service dogs out in public and they think they can still walk up and talk to them and touch them and all the things that that person with that particular disability and that particular trigger don't
Doesn't want.
that's doesn't want. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of why I'm like in about the crowd control. I'm not saying it doesn't work to push people out the way. The type of crowd control I prefer is a dog that'll get you out of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. A dog that'll get you out of it is great. I
Yeah.
also like for me, I think if I could like make peace with the fact that the dog was gonna get touched instead of me,
Hmm.
I think that could be useful. Because 'cause I'm not big on being touched by strangers. I think if I could make peace with the fact that the dog was being touched instead of me, I think that could be useful.
Yeah.
Um,
But then you got to get a really good dog that doesn't get overexcited about people. And that's really hard to find. Because if your dog gets so overexcited about people and gets distracted by people, all of your other tasking goes out the window.
that's and, like, the dogs I've seen it work for are usually, like, Mauser Shepherds, where they're not super big on, like, random strangers, but
Mhm.
also won't bite them.
Yeah, that's a very. I don't. Uh, I don't have very many German Shepherds down here that I could say can make a service dog.
Like, I mean, most shepherds in general at this point could not make great service dogs, but some, like, even-tempered and everybody knows this, I'm a German Shepherd person, like, even-tempered, good German Shepherds can make really nice service dogs.
Absolutely. It's just really hard to find nowadays
Yes, it is.
and very expensive.
Yeah,
Mhm. So,
there's a lot of
and
health
I'm not
checks
saying that you
involved.
shouldn't spend a lot of money on your puppy. You should absolutely spend a lot of money on your service dog. But, uh, like it's one of those things.
Yep.
Um, Another good point is your general community will come together to support you.
Mhm.
That's one thing that I have learned with fundraising for my clients and my clients fundraising for themselves. As we all know, service dogs cost a ton of money. Whether you're doing self training or you're buying from a program, you're looking at anywhere from 15,000 to 50,000. Anywhere you go. Um, there's even organizations that are like, yeah, it's free, but you have to raise X amount of money. It's not free. You still have to raise X amount of money. Like, why not go with a private business that's going to provide to you something that you absolutely want? You're going to have a shorter wait time and you still have to provide X amount of money. Just saying. Um, but yes, I mean, your community is going to come together and help you. You just have to be comfortable putting yourself out there, you know?
Yep,
Like, because people are going to ask, why do you need a service dog? Yeah, we're going to ask, oh, like, what is this for?
yep.
And if you seem like somebody who's like very secretive about, your reasonings why, then your community is going to be like, "Eh, are you just trying to get money?" But if like you're comfortable, telling at least some type of story and putting together some type of story of why you need a service dog and whatnot, then your community is going to be like, "Wow, dogs are wonderful. I'm so glad you're getting the help that you need."
Yep.
And I know a lot of people are worried about putting themselves out there like that, but that from my experience, that's what I've learned. Like that your community will back you 110% if you are comfortable explaining why that a service dog would help you. Because
Well,
people
and
see it.
even after you have a service dog, like, I've
Mhm.
seen a lot of people get a lot of support, like, in stores, and different things in public where, like, people literally, they will come around you, they will help you, and it does help because you do have that visual of the fact that you need something,
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
and you need some sort of, like, accommodations, which, I mean, everybody does, but if you have that visual of, like, that, I think a lot of people they're very generous and very nice about it.
for sure. But yeah, I mean, as far as like conclusion points, your service dogs, they do get you a lot of attention. So that's kind of a downfall, but they
Good
also
and bad, though.
good and bad.
See?
because that attention will also be able to help you when you need it.
Absolutely.
Um, but and then they can be trained for so many things, but just make sure you're careful about knowing the science of how that service dog can actually help you. That way, we're not just training a dog to do all kinds of crazy things, and it doesn't actually do what you need it to do. Some of that science is very important.
I have a caveat to that, not on the science, but on the specifics of, like, knowing what you need to do. Figure out the tasks
Mhm.
first.
Yes,
I
definitely. Like, think about what's going to help you. What could this dog do for you that helps your disability?
Yes, and
That's what we
along with that, and we'll probably our next one will probably be, like, getting a service dog or something to that
need.
effect. Anyways, if a trainer wants to do obedience before they ask you what your tasks are, you need to walk away.
Yes. That's a person that's just going to get you in so you can pay their bills with training and then leave or not provide the tasking that you actually need.
Well, and more than that, they can actually mess it up.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like,
Like,
in my the first thing I do when I ask people if they're trying to, like, self-train a service dog, the first thing I ask them is, "What tasks do you want to do?" Because
mhm.
I don't wanna train the dog to do something that's gonna be completely contradictory of a task that we're gonna ask them to do in the future.
Yes, absolutely. So for my board and trains, they'll tend to send them for a 6 week. And normally my obedience is a 6 week course. And
Right.
I'll start their obedience, but I won't finish it.
Right.
Because I mean, one, it's impossible for me to do your advanced obedience for off leash and your public access and your socialization and your task training in 6 weeks. Like
Yeah.
that's just impossible. I physically can't do it. Your dog's gonna be wore out and tired. They're gonna hate working.
Yep.
But on top of that, though, it's something I learned with when I was doing hunting dogs and whatnot. If you put too much hard- hardcore up front first before you do any of their other training, that becomes their default, and that becomes like that's gonna take your drive down for working so much. Like it really does. It creates a dog who is very very obedient, but it also creates a dog who that's all they want to do. So whenever you start saying, "Hey, this is your number one job and do this task," your dog's like, but down, but place, heel."
Mhm.
Like it's not, it's just, they need to know what they need to do first. You need to build their drive and build their work ethic for these really, really hard, complicated tasks before you do obedience. You can get by with some bare basic obedience and service dogs.
Yep. I agree. I think that if a trainer comes to you and they want to do obedience, I'm not saying if they wanna do obedience first. I'm saying if they don't ask you about your task,
Mhm. Okay.
like, before they sell you whatever it is service dog wise. If they don't ask about your tasks first, like, legitimately, if you need a dog who barks or a dog who noses or a dog who jumps or something like that, and you teach it not to do those things by any form of, like, punishment or aversive, it is gonna be way harder to teach that dog to do those things in the
Yep.
future.
Absolutely.
And that is something that you have to keep in mind before you start training your dog.
Yeah. All this needs to be planned before you ever get a dog.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, service dogs, the good, the bad.
The
I
neat
don't think there's
nose.
an ugly. They're cute.
No.
Huh?
That's if somebody were to wanting to know more about this, I think this is a series that I really, really want to do. So I mean, we're probably gonna break down into how to pick a service dog, what type of tasks
Yep.
can you do, um, different disabilities that service dogs can actually help that we know can help for sure for facts. Um, different breeds that are really good service dogs and why. There's so much that we can go into this. The ADA laws and learning those laws. Like there's so much education that we can put out there for service dogs in these
Mhm.
podcasts. So as listeners, let us know what you want to hear next.
Yep. I think we should try to intersperse the service dogs with the other stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, we can do like 12 different podcasts on service dogs alone. So,
lovely.
and Macy's about it. Um, yeah, but we are Bark Banter. you can email us at barkbanterpodcast@gmail.com. There is an Instagram, Bark Banter Podcast, a Facebook, Bark Banter Podcast. Uh,
Mhm.
there's a TikTok, but we never use it. And
We we'll
we
get
don't
better
have
at that.
time. For the record, guys, we just don't have time.
That's fair.
Like, we
It
both
takes a
train
lot.
dogs
We just don't find those
professionally.
clips
We
and
are not making any money off of this podcast right at the moment. Macy is trying to convince us to get a Patreon, which is
we
the
actually
thing.
have a
We don't have
Patreon, we
time.
just don't have it set up. So,
Like I said, more things we don't have time for. Um, but yeah. So if you have something you would like us to talk about, or you're actually listening, if you're listening to this podcast, could you like and subscribe or comment or something? I just want to know if
yes.
anybody actually listens to this.
We need to take a poll on that, like, "Oh, who's actually listening? Hands up."
Yeah. I'm Skyler. I own Redemption Dog Training in Denver, Colorado. I also do online training at redemptiondogtraining.com
And
with
I'm
Macy.
Macey, BossDog K9, in Louisiana, and BossDogK9.com, BossDog K9 Dog Training on Facebook. I do board and trains, so if you're out of state, I said send your dog to me, we'll get some, uh transportation set up for them. That's very possible. If you're looking for service dogs, I do service dogs. I actually um raise and train service dogs myself and then deliver them when they're fully trained to the people across the United States. So I mean, if there's something that you are trying to figure out if this is for you, and you've decided that after you listen to this podcast that getting a service dog is for you, let me know. Call me. You can find my information at any of those sites that we just mentioned above, and we would love to talk to you about that.
Oh, yep, yep. Get a service dog from Macy if you're gonna get a fully trained service dog. I will not actually do service dog training online. I just
Mhm.
decided that right this minute. Um, so yeah, yeah. Get a service dog from Macy if you're gonna get a service dog and have a great day.